Guys, gals, it's Monday morning and we're live. Deonne is back from vacation. She took a much-deserved trip to, I don't even know where she was, but I know that she was not working last week. Looks like LinkedIn has given us a little trouble. Hold on one second, everybody. See if it decides to like us. And if not, we're just going to keep going regardless. We are live, everybody, on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, currently, and we have some really good friends and some special winners who are with us today. I'm Mark. You already know me. You hear and see way too much of me if you spend a lot of time on our live streams. As you know, we started these back in March, mid-March. We had a member of the community, Chris Giles. Many of you know him. He is a rock star in the Canvas for Elementary group, Canvas for Secondary group, all-around Canvas expert. And he came to me and said, hey, we need to start doing some videos to get the groups all up and running on Canvas. So over the weekend, we decided, okay, let's figure out how to live stream. And since then, we've done 80 plus live streams over the past however many months that is. I don't count well, let's call it 4. And this is number 80 something. And what we're doing, Deonne Johnson, also known as Dr. Johnson, is a doctor of this stuff. She is an instructional design queen. One of the very best that we have at Canvas and a good friend. Her and Kristen Roberts are here from the Canvas team to be able to give some cool kind of updates on what some pages that are up and live in the community. So we have some winners. We put out a little call, asked some teachers to put together a video if they wanted to have Deonne take a look at their pages. And the winners are Jill, Polly, and Karen. Really quickly, Polly, why don't you tell us where you're from, what you teach?
Thanks. My name's Polly Blair. I'm in Overland Park, Kansas, and I teach elementary art K through 5.
Awesome. Jill, over to you.
Hi, I'm Jill, and I teach in Nashville, Indiana, in Brown County Schools, and I'm a 3rd grade teacher.
Awesome. Karen.
My name is Karen Pritcher, and I run the TK through 5 homeschool program for my district. I'm in California, sorry.
Awesome. Kristen, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Kristen Roberts. I've been with Instructure for a couple of years now. Before that, though, I was an elementary teacher, so I love working with elementary teachers, helping them out. I'm really excited to be here, especially with the wonderful Deonne, too. So this will be great.
Awesome. Deonne, you're up.
All right. Well, I'm super grateful, Jill, Karen, and Polly, that you all were brave enough to put your courses out to the world, because I think it's like opening your closet door. You're right. Yeah. Maybe things aren't all Marie Kondo and looking quite as perfect as you want. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that Marie Kondo. I might have her book on my back shelf right here. So it's a little bit nervous and a little bit scary, but I think by you being that transparent and open, then other people can learn from things that are working in your course and maybe some areas for improvement. So I really, really appreciate you being willing to do that. So
awesome. Deonne, before I'm going to cut you off. You know that I do that often. It's very rude, but it's done with lots of love in my heart. We also have Lindsay and Carrie, who you know are the queens of this fantastic group called Canvas for Elementary on Facebook. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. I think that when I checked last, it had probably 55,000 plus members. This is in 2 months, everybody. 2 months that this thing has turned into just a behemoth on Facebook. So big thanks to Carrie and to Lindsay. They're fantastic. So with that, Deonne, I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of kick off what we're going to do and to kick things off with Jill.
Awesome. Along those lines, I have to say, not only Carrie and Lindsay, but I love all the educators jumping in and helping out and answering people's questions. I think that that's just such a positive influence that social media can have on educators, and we know the impact that educators have on millions of students' lives. So thanks to everyone who helps support that group. I pulled up my copy of the course evaluation checklist, and if anybody's attended any of these other live sessions, this should be a familiar document. Maybe, Kristen, if you want to pull up that link in the Canvas community and then put it in the comment section, and everybody can have access to that. The reason I pulled this up is it's a very approachable document to look at and see whether your course is in alignment with some of the best practices that are out there. It's broken up that there's some foundational, there's our top 10 things that we recommend that you look at. And then we have, you can see the little legend up here. A 1-star means that that's really essential. Those are things that we want to make sure that are included in any of your Canvas courses. And then you'll see a 2-star, that's best practice. So if we scroll down here, there's some 2-star items. And then we also have some 3-star, which are exemplary. So I'd highly recommend looking at this document and starting with those top 10 foundational items, and then gradually building out till you're potentially at those 3-star exemplary. That scaffolding is so that people don't feel inundated with, oh, I have to do these, 40 things. There's other rubrics out there that will help reinforce quality courses. Some of them have, I've heard, like 147. So this one was designed to be super approachable and just kind of let you know whether you're on track. So the first thing that I want to look at is that homepage, and seeing if that provides a visual representation of the course. So on Jill, yep, I had to make sure I had the right name with the right course. As I look at this, like there is a visual representation, right? Welcome to 3rd grade. There's a cute little banner that's on here. I'm glad you're here. We're going to have a great summer. I think that's important. And I like that your buttons have, like, to me, this is almost like a bulletin board when you walk into a class. What kind of feeling do you want to give your students when they walk into the class? And if we look at the other 3, similarly, we can see that cute little Shine Homeschool is on there. We'll talk about these buttons and kind of why they're doing that in a few minutes. And then if we look at Polly's course, similar. Oh, I love Polly that you even have a cute little welcome video. And I noticed, Polly, of the 3 that submitted a course, you are fortunate to have Studio, which is a great way to leverage that tool. Not everybody has that, but if it's been installed, there's an additional cost that's an upgrade for every instance of Canvas. So the next thing I want to do, and we'll do this with all the courses, and I'd recommend everybody do this as well. I haven't done this, so we'll just see what pops up. When I go into edit mode and click on this little check accessibility, it's going to tell you if there's any challenges coming up. So it looks like that text right there was put in a table, and tables inherently are just a little bit problematic. If you can get by not using tables, like for sure that text, there's really no reason for that to be in a table. And if we look at the next, it's letting you know that's still a table. Ooh, this is a good one. It's letting you know that file names should not be used as the alt attribute, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. And you've got your buttons housed in a table. I'm going to show you a different way that you can do that. And so it looks like most of your challenges are all on accessibility, and I'm guessing that that is the same story for this one, but there's some tables. Yep. We've got an alt attribute challenge. So I would go through all of your pages, all of your announcements, all of your quizzes, discussions, all of them you should be checking for accessibility. It's a combination of things. Like, one, we want to make sure that we're in compliance, but also that's going to ensure that students have a consistent experience, and whether they're using a mobile device. I mean, obviously we want to do it, be in compliance, but it's just good design. If we think about the way that ramps were installed, right, to get into a building, the intention behind having ramps was initially so that people with wheelchairs, so that they could have access to buildings. But if you've ever been lugging a big suitcase behind you, or pushing a baby stroller, or walking on crutches, like there's other, lots of people benefit from having ramps. So similarly, when we're designing our courses and we're looking at it through the lens of accessibility, it's going to help it just be a better designed course. So let me show you a couple of those quick fixes. One is your image. So let me check and see what that first image was. So if we go, that's a table, this one. So if I'm on this image and I want to double check that a student that's using a screen reader is having a similar experience to someone who's sighted, I would click on that embed image right there. And if it's a decorative image, we're going to check decorative. If we want the alt text on this one, can I just go ahead and fix this for you? Okay, Jill. What would you like it to say? Probably something like click here to begin. Right?
Okay.
Is that okay?
That's great.
That's what your button says. So if somebody doesn't have access to a screen reader or is using a screen reader, what text would you want to provide? So that's how you would ensure that that text was set up correctly. And if you want, I can save this for you. Is that okay, Jill? All right. I'm going to hit
And
save.
you can always use the page history if you don't like what Deonne does.
That's true. So don't feel compelled
Don't
to.
know anything about that either.
Let's go ahead and look at that. I love that you brought that up. So these little dots up here, one of your options is to view the page history. So if you look at this and you're like, yeah, I didn't like that thing that Deonne did, you can go back to what you had set up yesterday.
Okay.
Well, looks like you were working later at night there, Jill.
That's it.
I'm sure you're not the only one that was working to do that. Okay, the other thing I want to look at are these buttons right here. So we can see that those are in a table. It looks like you just turned the grid lines off. Is that accurate?
Correct. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm gonna, just for the sake of time, I'm gonna show you something that we do. I've shared this ready-made template suite with other Canvas Live sessions. So let's just look at one of these primary ones and maybe this one. And remember, in the Canvas community, we do have access to a couple of free templates. Kristen, I'm going to ask you again if you'll jump in and find that. There's the one that has the buttons is the one that I'm looking for. Because I know not everybody has access to these. I'm going to stop my screen share for just a moment so I can do my little magic. I can look at this course in a different way.
Just a reminder to everybody who just joined, Deonne is working some black magic, I think, on the back end of Jill's page right now. We are live with 3 big winners from the Canvas for Elementary group, Polly, Karen, and Jill. They won a pass to our virtual leadership series for August about getting ready to go back to school. And we're live with Deonne and Kristen, who are looking currently at Jill's page to help just help her get in an even better place for the start
So
back to
one
school.
of the ways
ahead,
that you
Deonne.
can get this look, meaning those little buttons, and not put them in a table, is to actually set these buttons up as just an image. If I click on that, you can see that these are just images that are surrounded by white text. So if I look at my files area of this course, and pull up one of those buttons. That's what each button looks like. It's got that cute little rounded edge, your text on there, and then the white padding around it is part of the button. And then just by going to insert and putting those buttons in, it gives that look that they're in a table, but it's not in a table, and it's going to also allow for that to be more responsive. I highly recommend, especially as you are working, I know there's people here that are working with middle school and high schoolers, or I even saw somebody say we need the same thing for higher ed. When you have people that are accessing your courses on a mobile device, so that might be the iPad for your younger students, you want to make sure that these are mobile friendly. If I scrunch that up, at some point it's not going to be as responsive. But that one actually looks pretty good. But I noticed that that was a problem, Karen, with your course, that it's going to start cutting that off because of all the buttons. If they're stacked up and they're just those individual buttons outside of a table, then they're going to jump down to the next line. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Yeah, I wasn't sure that I could get the spacing right without the table, but you're saying it wouldn't affect it. It would just move the buttons down. It wouldn't keep them in the same spot, but it would make sure that they appeared on the screen. Is that what you
Yep,
mean?
and they'll just jump down to the next line.
Okay.
And my little secret to do that, there's just some quirky things with Canvas. So if I was right here on this line, I would hit return. I would make sure that my cursor was centered to begin with, because then it plugs in the HTML coding for it to be centered. And then I would start dropping my buttons in right here, and then they're going to be centered on the screen.
So you would just do them in one column, or?
You would just do them on one row. Yep.
Okay.
So would they be horizontal or vertical? Jill, was that what you were asking?
Yeah.
This is like our live course, so if Tiffany's watching, she would have a heart attack if I started changing this. I'll do this, and I promise, Tiffany, if you're watching, I won't change this page. I won't save it. So if I was here on this page, and I didn't have these buttons, again, Tiffany, promise I'm not going to change that. So my cursor is centered right here. And as I scroll down and I'm looking for those buttons, that's the banner. Okay, there's help. Then it's going to pop that help in there. And then if the next button I wanted was, there's a learn. See how it's just popping them in?
Mm-hmm.
And the trick to that is having kind of a white border on
Yep.
your buttons to kind of create that spacing between them.
Oh, okay.
Yes, 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 yes. Thanks for emphasizing that. And I'm going to hit cancel. Okay, so we talked about accessibility in getting your alt tags, ways to avoid tables. One of the other things that I wanted to show you that I'm hoping everybody's familiar with is underneath settings, there's this option to validate your links in your course. And doing that is going to double check that all of your links are done correctly.
Okay.
And that they're going to websites where they can get that file. Hey, this is really, really good. Jill, you only have 2. So it's just telling you that it's linking to Mrs. Miller's first grade homepage, and you might have renamed it.
Yeah.
So you'll want to click on that end of activity. I would just click on that one, and it's showing you, oh, can't find that one.
Okay.
If you go back and click on that end of activity, there's a link on here that's saying probably that you probably renamed your course.
Yeah.
And then similar, I'd look at that week 2. It looks like it's just referencing unpublished content, and you can avoid that. Like if you are intentionally unpublishing your content, then you can uncheck that.
Okay.
I've seen courses with, I remember one had 282, and it was a course that was ready to go live, and people were having check. So
mine is just the shell of a course. I'm very new at this, so it doesn't have much in it yet.
okay. So that's something to take into consideration as well.
Okay.
Kristen, I want to see if you have anything that you want to jump in and add before I keep looking at the course evaluation checklist.
I think you did awesome. I was going to definitely mention that link validator before you jumped in there. So
I remember where you got that.
It's underneath settings.
Oh, okay.
And then validate links in the content.
Thank you.
Sure. The next, and I think by spending more time on Jill's, we'll see that we can really streamline when we look at Karen and Polly's courses, because the same principles are going to be there. So don't feel like you're under too much scrutiny, Jill.
No, I love it. Thank you.
Awesome. While we're here at settings, I hope everybody knows that this is where you can change that course card. And this is what students are going to see on their dashboard. So it's really helpful that this image is representative of the course. So we probably, I mean, it's fine that you're working in the master course, but when it's time to make that go live with students, if you're teaching math, or Polly, I know you're teaching art, depending upon how your courses are coming in, realize that that's what students are going to click on to select and get to their courses. So I think it's really important to have an image there. One of the other foundational items is that your course navigation is clear and consistent, and that your unused items are hidden. So if I look at this, I can see that you've hidden announcements and you've hidden outcomes. To change that navigation, you'll just click on navigation. So right now, your students can access all of those links. I would highly encourage you to just make your top 3 or 4. Like by default, most institutions usually set a standard, and it might be something like home, announcements, modules, grades, and then if there's some other things that you want intentionally, but I would never make discussions. I would organize those within a module so that students are participating in discussion sequentially when they get to it with modules. Same with pages, same with quizzes, same with assignments.
Okay.
And the quick little fix for that is just like conferences. If you're not using that one, just drag it down. I won't hit save on it. I'll let you adjust it so that it's reflective of what you really want to do.
I hadn't gotten to that yet, but I did know about that one.
Awesome. And realize, I mean, I don't know how many people are attending the stream. Probably Mark can tell us how many people are viewing right now. So some of the things aren't just for you, but it's for all of our listeners. How are we doing, Mark? Are there a few people watching today?
Yeah, hundreds, you could say.
No pressure.
All right.
I'm making people feel good about themselves.
Well, again, like I just think it's great that you guys are here and opening up your closet door for everyone. Another foundational item is that you have your key learning objectives. So to put your goals, learning objectives, standards, your course material, all of that in a place that it's easy for students to find so that they know that they're on track with where they're at. It's helpful to have class expectations. So your participation rules, etiquette, policies for grading, late work, makeup work, if there's any technology requirements. And that's often done in like a welcome module. So if I go back to that template, we can see that there is, like here, I've got a raise your hand receiving help and support. So I can put that in a class help, or it could be in your class overview. So structuring it so that when people are getting started with Canvas, there's some sort of like week 0 or how to use Canvas, or here's all the information that you're going to come back to again and again before you just jump off and start using Canvas with, I don't want to say more meaningful content because it's definitely meaningful, but I like to give them an easy way to get exposed to Canvas, right? Maybe you're going to have a welcome discussion. And Polly, I know you have Studio, so it might be fun for them to introduce themselves using Studio so that they're kind of used to that. And it's a fun way that's pretty low stakes for them to get exposure to that tool. And
hey, Deonne.
Yes.
Deonne, really quickly, couple of questions. So people are asking, how do we rewatch? I am throwing a link in right now to our YouTube page, Canvas LMS. You can find a whole ton of these there. You can find this one there as well right now. Also, somebody, Brandy from Facebook, is asking, how can I get the kids to land on a welcome page versus the modules page when they sign in?
Perfect. Let's just answer that really quickly. So on the home button, over here on the right-hand side, we have choose homepage. By default, it's that course modules. You'll have the option to choose pages, your front page, but I should have shown you one thing first. Underneath pages, view all pages, we can click right here on any of these buttons. Oh, I selected the first one. And you can select which one you want to use as the front page. So you go to pages, find the customized page that you've made, select it as the front page. After you've indicated that, it'll have that little front page right here. And then when you go to home, you can say, rather than modules, I want that to be, and then the front page.
Deonne, why don't we did a session just recently. Amy on YouTube is asking easy way to make the buttons. You know, there's some cool integrations. If you look at something like Adobe Spark, obviously the big Adobe products you could do those with. Canva is a very popular one. super easy to use. But Deonne, any other thoughts on how you usually create buttons?
We usually do it in Google Draw because it's free, and then we can give a link for people to be able to make a copy of it. So let me, oh, you plugged that link in there, didn't you, Kristen?
Yes, that Mark posted that for everybody.
Awesome, right here. Did it grab the whole URL? There we go. Another way you can do it is to utilize one of these links right here, and it shows you exactly how to import that into your course. And what that will do is give you those buttons already to the right size with the white space in the background. And I don't want to take time to actually do that, but it's going to be very similar to this. And then when I go to that page, it's going to give you a customized page. Let me find it. Let's go this way. A link, a page like this where you can actually click on the text. It'll allow you to make a copy. And the thing I love about using it from that package is it's going to give you the right dimensions, the white background, and you can come in and you can customize and you can change the text, you can change the, I mean, it's the exact file, right? You can come in here and you can replace an image with whatever images you found. So I highly recommend looking at that teacher appreciation blog post because you're going to have both sets of buttons and banners for that page.
Thanks.
Deonne, another question from Laura on YouTube. Is there a way to hide the student to-do list so that they can't skip the content pages of the module? And it looks like she had students going right to the assignments and missing content in the spring.
So I can answer this, but I also feel like Kristen's been really quiet. Do you want to talk to him about prerequisites and requirements?
Yes. I was going to bring that up too. So there's no way to hide that to-do list, but in modules, you can set up prerequisites and requirements. That requires students to go into the modules in a sequential order, however you set that up. The prerequisites mean that they have to complete a module before going on to the next module. And if you set up requirements inside a module, you can have students go inside each page, each assignment in a specific order, how you would like them to. So if they're clicking that assignment on the right-hand side in the to-do list without first going into the pages that you set as a requirement, it will not let them access that assignment yet. So as Deonne's showing, she just went to the 3 dots on the module and chose edit. And then that's where you could add requirements. So if you press that add requirements, and I typically chose students must complete or move through in a sequential order. That's really just setting up my module, how I want my students to flow in my class. And then I would add as many requirements as there are in that module. So I would choose that reading one, and I would make students view the item before they could go on the next thing. Or they could even mark as done, where it gives them a little checkbox saying, okay, I've completed this. I can now go on to the next item. So they're not skipping ahead within that module.
Cool.
Well, and I know the very first time that I started to play around with this, I thought those drop downs belonged to the second bullet point because they were right next to it. But really those drop downs go with whichever bullet point you choose. It's just so I know that confused me, so I wanted to point that out.
That is a great point. I think the cool thing is when it comes to quizzes, you could have students score at least a certain amount before they moved on to the next quiz. One thing I use this for, I'm a previous 3rd grade teacher, so I did all of my multiplication facts in one module, and they must score at least an 80% before they can move on to that next quiz. So, and it did it for me. I just set it up in the modules and moved on to that next item. And then my students were able to complete that quiz until they got an 80% and then moved on to their 2s facts and then 3s.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions about Jill's course before we look at Karen's and then take a few minutes and look at Polly's?
Nope, let's go to Karen's.
Awesome. So Karen, I would do the same thing, right? I would go to edit. I would check the accessibility, which we already did that. So that's one thing. And I would give your buttons a little overhaul. They're cute, but I think just getting them out of the table is going to make it more accessible. I know that you had some specific questions about homeschooling. So I might let you just jump in and start asking some questions and then let Kristen and I share, because the same things we talked about Jill's are going to be applicable to yours to a certain extent.
Okay, so my page isn't necessarily for students to access. It's more for the other teachers. So I'm kind of the teacher overseeing all the other teachers. So how can they get, like, say, my curriculum page? If I post a document on there and I want the other teachers to access it, how can they get it? And put it on theirs?
Are you putting this in Commons?
No. Is that what I should do?
That would be my first recommendation. So if you go to Commons, let's see, actually, I'll go to the home page. You can say that you're going to share to Commons right here. So I went to settings and then share to Commons, and I won't actually do this, but you'd have to authorize that. Okay. What this does is it puts it up into the cloud so certain people can access it. So you can make it available only to you. You can make it to all of your institution, or you can make it public so that anybody. Now this space isn't police, so you can also find stuff on Commons and pull down. I know that in that Facebook group, a lot of people are putting their templates or their home pages in there. So that would be another way to get home pages. But like I said, nobody's policing that. So our best practices certainly in play. You can't be guaranteed of that. But if you make it to all of Conejo, did I say that right? Mm-hmm. If you make it available there, then people can find it, but it will be attached to your name. You can choose the type, copyright, put in your description.
Is there any way they can just click on my button, go to their, I mean, I'm trying to make it easier for them. That's a lot of searching.
Karen, are you going to have your teachers in there as students? Or
can.
Because direct share is on too, Deonne. So if they're in there as teachers, they can directly share it right into their, or they could directly copy it right into their course.
Ooh, that's what I want.
So you'd have to add them in that course as teachers, and that's completely doable. But then you would go, so if Deonne, if you want to go into that curriculum page, and let's say I'm a first grade teacher, I'm going to click on the first grade one. They're going to click those 3 dots up there, and then they're just going to choose copy to. And from that drop down, they'll find that course that they want to copy directly to their course.
Perfect.
And then they could put it in a specific module too, and it takes a couple seconds to go over there. But
awesome.
Yeah, if they're in there as teachers, they can do that.
Kristen, I don't think you got to see it, but Karen's head literally just went like this.
It did.
Mind blown.
It's one of the newer features in Canvas, and it's such a lifesaver.
The one caveat that I want to make to that, the only downside is if they're a teacher, that means they have the same exact privileges that you do in that course. So make sure that they understand 100% that any changes that they make in that course would be effective for the course as a whole. So just tell them with great power comes great responsibility. With pages, right, you could look at page history and you could change things back, but I think where it becomes problematic is when people change quizzes or assignments or discussions, because you can't go back and look at that history of those items. Awesome.
Got it. So cool.
What other questions do you have?
This is just a logistics question, but see the white space under where it says Shine Homeschool? How do I get the buttons to move up?
I'm wondering, so that button has
an
a
image.
or that banner has a lot of white space underneath it, so it's coming from that banner.
Okay, so just change it in slides.
Yep.
Okay.
And you could even change the size of the slide. So you don't have to use the actual slide size. You can do a custom size in Google Slides.
Okay. And then why does it do that? I have other friends that the buttons are going off the page. Is that because of the same thing we talked about already?
It's a combination of the table, and then also because your banner is a set size. One of the other things that you can do that we do with most of our banners is come in here and in the rich content editor, you can come in and say, instead of width 550 pixels, you can change that to 100%. And then, can I go ahead and save this?
Yes.
I had saved before she said yes. Page history. So now that banner is 100% of your width. And then your table looks like maybe it was, no, it wasn't set as 100%. But then as you put your buttons in, I think that's the best answer for your banners, is getting those to 100% and then changing out so that you get rid of that white space on the image itself.
Got it. You make it so easy.
I've done this.
She is a doctor.
I worked with Canvas for a hot minute or two.
I love it. I love it. Okay. I think that's like, you seriously blew my mind on the other one. So I'm good.
Why we invite Kristen? She gets all the kudos today.
Hey, Deonne and Kristen. We just had another question. Looks like we've had quite a few, I'm betting, come in a little bit late. This is going to be available after the fact. Go to Canvas LMS on YouTube. You can also find these on the Instructure website. You can find them on Facebook. You choose where you want to find them. You'll find them. But go to YouTube, Canvas LMS. You can see this after the fact. One of the questions that came back was, how would you move the buttons from tables? We already talked about that earlier on, but do you want to give a quick tutorial again, Deonne, about how they actually do that, just for those who are late?
Honestly, it's probably easier if they watch it, only because I'm looking at the time and it's 11:15 and I have a meeting in a few minutes. And
Holy cow!
Some time.
Good point. Go watch it from the beginning. Send me a note, mark.booth at Instructure if you're lost. I'll help you. Keep going, Deonne.
All right. Holly, let's jump to your course. And I might do the same thing. I might just open it up to you to get some questions. For people that are looking at Polly's course and they're like, wow, that looks so amazing. In addition to having Canvas and having Studio, her institution also has something called, I never know if they're going by Design Tools or City Labs, but
We've been calling it City Labs, but I'm not sure either.
yeah. A shout out to City Labs. I love them. If I walked out my front door and turned my computer around, you could see like probably 3 miles away where it launched, because I live in Logan, Utah, and it originated out of Utah State University. So shout out to all the team there that created that. It's super cool stuff. And that's why we've got these nice little emoji or images, icons, and then that gray background, and it just looks amazing. Nice job with that, Polly.
Thanks. That is a table, because I couldn't figure out how to get my 9 weeks. I needed it to be nice and neat. So should I take advantage of what you were recommending to the other teachers and change those as individual buttons?
100% disclosure. Like, I know of City Labs. I'm by no means an expert.
Okay.
So I know accessibility is a really big deal. And while we're talking about accessibility, I'm going to show you this other resource which is ironically enough also based out of Utah State. So go Aggies. The contrast checker right here, you can plug in your foreground and your background images to make sure that you have sufficient contrast. That was one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we talked about.
And a little plug for City Labs does that also in their accessibility checker, which is awesome.
Yes. And so that was my connection, actually, was thinking about tables being accessible, knowing that they really have a strong eye towards accessibility. So I would run the accessibility checker and see if those tables are pulling up as being problematic. So I don't have a good answer for you is my short answer for that. I have to do a little bit of digging, and I'm like, I know that you also want to talk about engagement, and Kristen said that she already had some kind of fun ideas of how to increase engagement and how to have students share from an art type perspective what they're learning.
That's awesome. In week 4 and week 5, I gave those little paintbrushes a different image because those are what I've worked up to as a reminder to myself. In week 4 lesson, like a part 2, I use a discussion board for feedback for kiddos. And then in the week 5, I'm using an embedded Padlet for 2 different ways that kids could upload images. And then I think in this one too, in another week, I've used Atomic to do like a drag and drop, like different kinds of lines. But I know there are some of the problems that I may come across with Padlet is since I'm just using the free version, I only can have so many of them. Anyway, I would love to know Kristen's ideas for me.
Yeah, one thing that we've been working with a lot of elementary teachers on, I think it's been huge, is new quizzes, which is the new quizzing platform inside of Canvas. If you would go to your quiz section, and I think, Polly, you have this one. I was looking at the others and I didn't see that. But this is more of an LTI version of our quizzing platform where it becomes way more interactive. You have new quiz questions like categorization, where students can drag and drop options in different categories, and you could get up to like 10 categories, probably more. I haven't checked further than that. You have sequencing, again, where students can drag and drop sequence options in order. And then my personal favorite, you have hotspot questions. So you can upload an image, and for your question, you could ask, select on this part of the image. As the teacher, you could select a certain spot of the image, and then the students would have to click on that certain spot, and it's auto-graded. Cool. So it's a really cool new quizzing engine, and I thought for like engagement and even assessment with your students, it'll be really helpful and engaging. You could definitely use images in all of those types of questions. And even though the ones that you can't use images, you could use emojis. So it's a very accessible piece, especially for our younger students too.
I love that. How does that, do you know, and this may be off topic, but how is this contrast with Atomic assessments? Because I've used something in part 1 of this particular week. Let's see, week 4, part 1, I use an Atomic assessment to have kids, I think. I've got so many going on. No, maybe the next.
I'm not too familiar with Atomic.
Okay.
But I love.
Okay, maybe it was it's all running together at this point. I'm sorry, but I'll do some checking though too. Thanks about the Atomic versus new quizzes. Thanks.
Polly, just so you're aware, you will, in one of the things that we talked about with Carrie's group, we just talked about it this last week, Canvas has an offering from a company called Mastery Connect that does a lot with assessment as well that we will be talking about in that back to school virtual leadership series.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of art teachers do discussions as virtual or art gallery walks that they could post their images up there. And I think that's a really cool feature, especially if they aren't seeing each other every day. They're able to go in and check out each other's work, give them compliments on it.
Cool.
Kristen, do you have anything that you could queue up really quick and show like that hotspot and share the screen?
Let me see.
She's got to love how I just put her on the spot. And I saw somebody else ask about how do you get new quizzes turned on. You can see that if I go to plus quiz, I can do classic quizzes or new quizzes. I think it has to be turned on, and Kristen, you might know this detail. I think it has to be turned on by your admin or by the course level. Is that true still?
Yes, so it could be turned on or could be set to allow. If it's set to allow, you could turn it on in your settings area, or it's just turned on by your administration. Or
So you can
So if
see
you
your-
don't,
Go ahead.
if you don't see it, talk to your Canvas admin,
Okay.
yes, if
and
you
they
go
can
to
at least get
settings,
you an answer.
if you go to settings and features options and you don't see new quizzes, talk to your admin because it's such a great tool.
Hey, I think we probably have like 2 more minutes. This has been fun to do this. I know other people requested for secondary or higher ed. If there's somebody that wants to, Mark, if you want to coordinate with somebody else, I'm sure I could wrangle some other people to jump in and help do those 2 populations.
I can't think of anything I'd rather do. Deonne?
Is your
Nothing else.
is the accessibility checklist that you have on your screen, is that something that's in the Canvas?
Community?
Yeah. Yes.
Yep. I will put that in one more time.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that, like, of all the things that you've done today, that's something that everyone can learn from the doctor about.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And use that course checklist. I use it all the time.
That's great.
Okay, everybody. As you know, we've been here with some big winners of the time with the doctor. Oh my goodness, the doctor just left us. She's off to see another patient. But with that, everybody, big winners this time were Jill, Polly, and Karen. The doctor's back. Don't worry. We thought you'd taken off to another patient, Deonne. We weren't happy about it. I am dropping right now. It's coming in hot, everybody, on YouTube, Facebook, and everywhere else. The course evaluation checklist. So take a look at it. The doctor recommends it. Big winners attending the virtual leadership series. If you want more information about it, anyone send me a note, mark.booth@instructure.com. Thanks again for being with us. You can watch this on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, just wherever you want to find it. It might be there. Thanks everybody for coming. Tomorrow morning at 10:30, we will be back. Have a great day.